Now, I'm using 3D Max version 2016. Of course, you can do this in any version of 3D Max that you have. I'm just using this version because it happens to be the one I have at the moment. And it also comes with a Scene Explorer window, which allows us to select anything in our scene. But as I said, this is nothing crucial. You can all do what we are about to do, okay? So, to start with, we need to reset our scene to standard values so that we all are doing the same things, okay? So, please click on the 3D Max button and then click on Reset. And then, do you want to reset? Of course, click Yes. Alright? Next, we need to design the standard page of a book. Not standard page, but rather, let's decide on what kind of width and height do we want for our book to be, okay? To do that, I think it's best to work from the front view. We are going to click on Box on the Create menu, click on Box, turn on Auto Grid so that way when we design it, it happens to be drawn from the center point. And then on the, it will be drawn from the grid point, not the center point, sorry about that. And then click on Box, and then from the front view, let's maximize that view, and let me just reduce the size of this Scene Explorer so that we have more real estate here. So yeah, we are just going to draw something like that we think will be our book. Okay. And then just move it somewhere there. Okay. And then the dimensions, though, I'm using centimeters, as you can see, okay? So for this purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to change the settings of the units so that we are all working on the same units, because you could be watching this from Saudi Arabia and I don't know whether you use inches or other units of measurements there, okay? So let's work on generic units. To do that, we click on Customize, Unit Setup, okay? And then Display Units, please click on Generic Units, okay? And then System Unit Setup, you can choose whatever you want here. I'm just gonna select centimeters. I'll click OK, but the main thing is that display unit must be generic, all right? So we'll select again our box. Now please go to the modify tab of this box so that of course we can adjust its values. Now for the length, of course you can see the length happens to be the height. Let's enter, I think, a value of 180, okay? You can see now it's no longer showing us centimeters or anything, it's just showing 180, okay? For the width of course is that width. I think a value of 140 is fine, okay? The height will control the thickness of this book. So to see the thickness, of course, please click on the maximize viewport toggle, which is the button at the very edge there, okay? So that we can see, of course, the book in the front, in the top, and perspective view. And right now, as you can see, of course, this book is way too thick, okay? So we're going to reduce its thickness, which is controlled by the height. Maybe enter a value of 20. All right. Let's just see now. Maybe 20 is still too thick. How about a value of 10? Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, a value of 10 is much better. All right. Yeah, and yeah, don't forget that the front of the book, of course, will be replaced with the right picture in After Effects, okay? Now, next thing to do is we need something that will control the motion of the book. In other words, its rotation, okay? Because we want the book to spin and then to slide into view, okay? Now, to do that, we are going to be clever about it and create a path that the book will follow. And you'll also create what is called a dummy controller. The dummy controller will then control the rotation of how much the book actually spins. All right? And so let's decide on that. To do that, we're going to go to the Create panel where we are and then select Shapes right there. It's right next to the Geometry tab. There is Shapes. Okay? And please bear with me because as I'm showing some of these what could be mundane steps, because there are people who it might be their first time ever to watch a 3D Max tutorial. Hence, I'm making sure, of course, I cover basically almost every step so that, of course, everyone is happy. Okay? Because hey, remember, there was a time when all of us were newcomers in the world of 3D and we needed this kind of information. Okay? So let's continue. So we are going to create, that is, a circle. Okay? So let's draw a circle in the view. And then we need to center the circle. So to do that, we are going to click on the select and move button. Select and move. And then you see these coordinates there on the X, Y, and Z position. For something to be completely centered, all those values must be turned to 0. So we are going to right click to make it 0. Right click also to make it 0. And now you can see, of course, the circle is bang in the middle like that. Okay. Alright, let's continue. Alright. And then the other thing to do is, if you look very close to this circle, you can see its edges are not smooth. It has got jagged edges. So we need to smoothen these edges. To do that, we click on the modify tab again, because that's where everything can be modified. And then we are going to expand the interpolation tab. You see that? Interpolation. And you can see there, of course, there's steps which has a value of 6. Now these steps, if you reduce them, you see, you get more and more jagged edges. Alright? But we want something that will be smooth forever. So luckily 3D Max enables us to do that with one click. And to do that, we simply check the adaptive button. You see that? Before and after. Adaptive, you see? Now it's a perfectly smooth surface. Okay? And then next, we need to create, as we had mentioned earlier, what we call a dummy. Okay? A dummy is a controller that is not an object, it's just something that holds a value. Okay? Or it's something that can be used to drive other things. Okay? We use dummies because they can be very accurate, especially when you want to rotate something and so forth. Okay? And just to speed up my user interface a bit, I'm going to change the viewport setup from realistic here by clicking up there to shaded. Okay, that way just makes it a bit faster. Then we go to the create tab. To create a dummy, we move the mouse until we find the help us tab. Okay, help us tab, of course, is next to the cameras and it's next to the space warp, so it's the help us. It looks like a tape, a measuring tape. So click on that and then click on point. Okay? And then turn on box. That way this point dummy that we're going to create will also have a box. And then click once. Okay? You see, we've created the point helper which has a box around it. To modify it, you can see, of course, there are all kinds of dummies that are there, but for our tutorial we just want to use that. Now, let's then go to the Modify tab, and we can increase, of course, the size of this dummy. We can even turn on Axis Tripod. You see that? That way, it shows us the directions which it will be pointing at. All right? All right. Now, up next, we need to position this dummy in the middle of the scene. So select it, and then select the transform tool, and then we're going to right click, of course, on all these values to turn them to absolute zeros. That way, as you can see, of course, the dummy is right in the middle. And of course, our box, please also right click these two values, leave them at 0, except the Z axis, because we want it to sit on the floor like that. Because you see that when it's like that, you see, if you change the Z value, it causes, of course, to rise above the floor. So let's leave it at maybe a value of 90. Okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe you might want yours to float in the air. It's up to you. But for our tutorial, we just want to keep things like this. Okay. Then up next, we want to link the book to the dummy helper. Okay. But before we do that, we need a leaf out of this book, literally, that will actually be the front cover, okay? Because remember, in After Effects, we will need the precise position of the front of the book, not the whole book itself, all right? So, to get the leaf out of this object, here's what we do. We are going to go to Edit and Clone. We're going to make a copy of it. So, Edit, Clone, make a copy and call this front cover. Okay, click OK. The name is not important. You can name it anything you want. Now, after you've made the front cover, please go to the Modify tab. And then we're going to, before we actually go further, please make sure that this is really exactly the size of the book that you want, because you may not be able to change values again. Okay? And then we're going to change the height to a value of 0. That way, it's a very thin surface. And not only that, please change the cover to something else. I'm going to make it maybe that green. Or maybe just so that it's clearly noticeable, I'm going to make it orange. Okay. That way, you guys can definitely see the difference. Maybe this color is even too dark. How about a yellow in fact? Okay. So, you see, of course, how this object is positioned. And, of course, as its name suggests, it's sitting right at the front of the book. Okay. That's good. Then, please select the box from which the book front came, and then of course rename this to something else like book. Okay. Now at this point it looks as if the front cover has disappeared, but don't worry, it's somewhere there, but it's in very close proximity to the book. To select it, we are going to click on the Select by Name button up there, and then of course there it is. There's the front cover, you see, and then we need to move it, of course. We need to move it a few values in front. So we just need, for instance, according to the left view here, we just need to move it. You see where it is? You see where it was? So we need to move it. Let me see. Let's get closer. Yeah, we need to move it just like that, so that it's so close to the book itself, but not inside the book. Okay, you see that? So there's a very thin line between them. You see that? Okay, that's great. And then, so now we need to decide on the relationship between objects in our file. Okay? One thing for sure, the book cover, the front cover and the book itself must share the same journey. In other words, they will travel together, they will rotate together, they can even scale together. Okay? So to do that, we're going to select the front cover and then click on the Select and Link button. It's represented by a chain there. Click on that and then we need to link it to the book. So click on the link and then click on the Select by Name button, and then of course select the book upon which you're going to link and then click on Link. You're going to see, of course, it glows a bit. Now that means if you select and then if you move the book itself, you see what happens? The front, of course, follows as well. Alright, so I'm going to undo that. Okay, again what we did was we picked the front cover and then we click on the chain there which represents the select and link, and then we select by name and then we double click the book. Okay. You can also do it in the following way. If you're using 3D Max version 2014, I think it's from version 2014, what happens is the following. If, let's say, I broke this chain, in other words, if I select the front cover and then I break the chain, and if this book moves backwards, you see it leaves the front behind, that's because the connection has been broken. If I now select the front cover, in the Scene Explorer window, I can literally drag the front cover. I'm just using my left mouse button, and I'm moving it to the book. You see what happens? Now the book is the master, and then the front cover is a child, so that if we select the book and move it, you see, we have the same thing as when we had selected the chain and linked the two items. Okay, so that is, as I said, the advantage of this new version of 3D Max. But as I said, you can even do this in 3D Max version 2014. Okay, so let's continue. Now that was step 1. Step 2 is linking the parent, which is the book, to this dummy here, so that the whole book and the front cover will be controlled, animated by this dummy. Okay, and as I said, we are using the dummies because they're more accurate when you are animating. Okay, so we select the book and then we click on the chain and then I select by name, and of course the dummy is called 0.001. So double click on it and there we go, it's linked. Now if you select the dummy, you see it controls the book and its cover. Alright, now after having done that, we need the dummy now to be animated along this circle. Okay, and the circle, mind you, is just a path that the book will take. Okay, so to do that, we must first decide on how long do we want this animation to be. Right now, you can see, of course, we are being shown 100, which is of course 100 frames. Now please click on the time configuration button over there and then change the time display from frames to minutes and seconds over there. It's the 4th option. And then we are going to change the duration. Instead of having the animation lasting 3 seconds, how about we have it last for 10 seconds? Okay, and then click on rescale time and then click OK and then click OK once again. And now you can see, of course, the time is now shown in seconds instead of frames. Alright, then next we select the dummy and then we're going to animate it along this circle. So to do that, we click on animation, constraints, path constraints. Okay, so it's animation, constraints, path constraints, and then 3D Max becomes, or rather the mouse turns into this dotted line because it's waiting for us to pick a shape which will be the path. And you can see if I move my mouse over the boxes, nothing happens because those are not shapes, they are polygons. So we then need to go, of course, to the path, and there it is. Aha! So you see what happens is that the whole point has taken on the book and the front, and they've all moved to the circle. Now if you press play, you can even see at the beginning and the end it has created two keyframes. If you press the play button, you see, of course, what our book is already doing. It is, of course, simply just passing along the circle. You see that, eh? So that is what has happened so far, and it wasn't that difficult to achieve, was it? And believe you me, I'm actually happy with this result already, but you know, it's nice, but you know, it's always good to take things to the next level. Okay, what the next level we're talking about is that not only will the book slide in like that, but it will actually first rotate and then come and then come to a standstill. Okay, so here's what we do. We are going to turn on auto key, and you can see, of course, the screen turns red because 3D Max is warning us, pay attention, whatever you're doing is being recorded. Okay, whatever rotation of movement, 3D Max is going to animate them. Okay, so for our sake, let's see, maybe we don't want the book to come in from there. Maybe we want it to slide in from further to the back. Okay, so in other words, the book will now come from further to the back and then it will slide to the front. Okay, alright, so we want it to slide from the back, and then it will come to the front here. So for it to come to the front, of course, we have to move it to the front. And not only can we do that, but rather you can see we are no longer in the create tab or the modify tab, but we are in the motion tab, because that's where we can play around with the values of the percentage along the path. Okay, because what is happening is that if you scrub through the timeline, you can see how this value is changing. You see that number is updating because, of course, something is changing about the way in which the object is moving. Okay, and then here's what we need to do. We need to get rid of that last keyframe. Okay, so highlight with your mouse and then right click on the keyframe and then delete selected keys. That way, okay, you see we only have one motion, although it's going the wrong way. Don't worry. Okay, we're still going to fix that. So let's say it starts from there. We might even delete this key as well. All right, that way nothing happens. Okay, so in the beginning, this way we start, and then maybe after, let's say, 4 seconds, we come over here, and then let's see what we can do. We're going to try and adjust these values here. Okay, but I think there's just one problem. The percentage of the object along the path ranges from 0 to 100. Now, if the value goes all the way to 100.706, that means it has gone beyond the maximum it's allowed to go. And you will get strange results if that is the case. Okay, so instead, here's what we do, because as I said, we cannot allow this to happen, because literally this means that the object has gone over 100% along the path, and it's just not accurate. Okay, so we're going to highlight that key, right click, delete that key. Let's move to the beginning of the time. Now please change this value here to 0. You can enter 0, or you can right click and the value will also become 0. You can right click on those two spinners and the value also becomes 0. Now please turn off auto key. Instead of us moving the object along the path at the beginning, we are going to rotate the path itself. So select the circle and then please rotate it like that. You see, and if you then, you see, you can rotate it whichever way you want. Okay, now if you then select, maybe further to the back still, if you select now the point helper, the dummy, and you go to the motion tab and the path options, you see the percentage along path is still 0. All right, and that is exactly what we wanted. Okay, now we are going to turn on auto key once again. Now at the beginning, of course, we have a keyframe of 0, and then we go up to about 4 seconds, and now here we are going to increase the value. You can increase the value by literally moving the object, the dummy, along the path, but it's more difficult to handle. So hence, it's much easier to simply come in and, adjust those values over there. Okay. Now, if you go to the beginning and press play, you see, of course, what we have. So the book slides in, and then, of course, it stands still. Okay. And let me just check something. Okay, everything is still fine. Now, you can see, of course, what we are getting, but you might notice, of course, the book maybe is coming in a bit too slowly. So to make it a bit faster, to make it come in a bit faster, you can just simply highlight that keyframe and move it, closer to the earlier keyframe, creating a smaller gap in between them, and then okay, that's what we have. And one very important thing to note is that the speed at which we are seeing things is not very accurate. Okay, this is not really at the time at which it will actually play when we render. Okay, to enable us to see exactly precisely how fast this book is actually moving, we need to create an animation preview. All right, to do that, we click on